So, you've received your kit and you're ready to make a Mayflower's flower pot. Let's get started. First, you're going to see that you've got two fabrics and one white piece of material. That is polypropylene, and we are going to set it aside. The polypropylene is what is going to make the project waterproof. Now, both of these pieces of fabric are the same length but different widths. Let's work with the fattest one first. And we're going to fold it with the right sides of the fabrics together like shown, hamburger style, and line up the bottom and the edge. We're going to pin those together. Now, if you're using a fabric that has words on it, make sure that the words are right side up. This open part up top is going to be the top. Now let's start sewing. We're going to line up the right side of the presser foot with the right side of that fabric. Remember to reverse stitch when you start. As you come down here close to the edge here, don't go off the edge. Let's just go close to the edge, about a ½ inch away. Make sure our needle is down and lift up our presser foot. That way we can just pivot the fabric around and continue sewing along the bottom edge of this piece of fabric. Once you get to the end here, we will reverse stitch. Make sure that you are using your nippers to trim all of your threads as we go along. And then we can remove our pins, and then we're going to make the false bottom of our project. So we're going to take and fold in such a way that the point of this triangle is at the point of the bottom of that piece that we sewed, and we want to match up the side seam and the bottom seam. We're going to measure 2 inches up along that seam and put a pin in it. And then we're going to draw an imaginary line that is perpendicular to that side seam and put some pins through there as well, and we're going to sew straight across there. Now you're going to make sure that you reverse stitch when you begin and when you end. Remember to sew perpendicular across the bottom here. Nip those strings off, and then there we've got our sewing line. Now we need to do the same thing on the other side. Remember 2 inches here and stick a pin in. Make sure that you aren't catching the other side as you do this second step. Now that we've got that done, we can trim the excess fabric here. See these little triangles? We want to trim them on the bottom side of that stitching line that we just made. So the stitching line will stay on the main bag. Once we have those corners trimmed off, we can set that aside, and we're going to work with this polypropylene waterproofing material and pin the side and the bottom just like we did this first piece of fabric. We're pretty much going to do the exact same thing that we just did with that first piece of fabric. So we're going to stitch down the side and then pivot at this corner. So needle down, presser foot up, and turn. And then sew across the bottom. Once we get that done and all of our pins taken out, we are going to sew these corners just like we did with that fabric. These ones might be a little easier for you because this polypropylene folds a little bit more like paper, and so it should hold its shape a little bit better. We're going to trim the bottom corners off of this piece as well. And then once we're done with that, we can set it aside. And we're going to take our last piece of fabric, fold it with the right sides together, hamburger style, and this time we're only going to sew down that edge. We are not going to sew the top or the bottom together. Once that's done, we are going to head to the ironing board. Make sure that your iron is set at a cotton or medium setting. On my iron right here, I have it set at number 3. We're going to press this seam open, just like a book. And then we're going to fold this tube around itself. So you're going to match up these raw edges and make sure that you can see through it like that. Now we're going to put the folded edge over the nose of our ironing board and use our iron to just iron that together. Make sure that as you move it around that those raw edges stay lined up with each other. Perfect. Now we can put all of our pieces together. We're going to leave that main bag inside out, but we're going to turn this polypropylene bag right side out so that you can't see any of the stitching. Then this bag gets put inside the polypropylene, and we are going to start lining up this top edge by matching the side seams. And then we're just going to line up these top raw edges with each other all the way around. Once you get all the way around, we are going to put this top piece around the whole thing here. So we've got to get the side seam lined up with that seam that is on this top piece that we just ironed. Once you get that lined up, you can even just use that same pin to pin through all 3 pieces. And we're just going to line up all of the raw edges all the way around. If you have a little bit of a bubble on the top part, it's okay. That will all come out as we sew it. Just make sure to use a lot of pins around that bubble. Now we're going to take off the front deck so that we can put this all the way around the neck of our sewing machine. And we are just going to sew all the way around this top part. And make sure that you remember to reverse stitch at the beginning and the end. Once that's done, we can take out all of these pins and then turn this right side out like so. And then flip that top part over the top. And there we have a really cute bag. You can either put a potted plant in there or you can fill it with dirt and use some of these seeds that you got.